Good evening, everybody. My name is Ahmed Al-Masri, and today we're going to present our findings regarding the Tulane MBA program. With me today is my colleague Dan. And before we begin, I'd like to, on behalf of FCG members and the FCG board, thank the clients for giving us the opportunity to work on this, and thank the esteemed panel for coming and giving us their opinion on this. Now, to begin with, we're going to discuss briefly our client and their central issues. We're going to continue by identifying the competitors the client is facing within the market and the different differentiation strategies that are utilized by the competitors. And finally, in this aspect, we're going to identify short and long-term strategies that can be utilized going forward. Following this, we're going to identify the employers for Tulane alumni, or the Freeman School of Business's alumni, and identifying the data gathering techniques that we utilize throughout our analysis. We're then going to identify the emerging job markets for the alumni. Following that, we're going to conclude by identifying the strategies that can be utilized by the school to mitigate current and future market threats, and concluding by identifying potential short and long-term strategies that can be also used by the client. Our client was quite conveniently our school, and the central issues that the client wanted us to tackle were broken down to 3 issues, and they include identifying the current market position, in addition to recent changes in the market, an identification of the competitor and the employer market, and we did this through a rigorous analysis that we will discuss. And finally, identifying the competitors' different strategies they use to position themselves in the market. So before we begin with our analysis, throughout our analysis, we identified means of identifying, from our point of view, Tulane's or the Freeman School of Business's position in the market. And we created a matrix in which we identified the different set of areas of competition for competitors. And from our point of view, and in relation to the rankings of US Business News, we believe that we compete in 14 different areas. Obviously, this is our point of view, and we took into consideration the market data that was available to us, and of course, Dan is going to go through that. So our findings concerning the competitor analysis consist of identifying, or we reached a point where we identified 3 specific points. Those points include, one, that Freeman's competitors usually utilize a niche-driven competitive strategy. And they do this in a way that maybe an example that we found was stunning to prove this point is a program like Carnegie Mellon in New York actually offer individuals leadership initiatives to identify whether they want to continue in the leadership roles throughout their organizations or not. And depending on that, they can then either pursue an MBA degree that's customized to the applicant, and this obviously is very niche driven and pulls in a lot of people who want to hold leadership positions in their respective organizations. The second point is the potential growth areas for the Freeman School of Business. And those points, we believe, include a lot more than entrepreneurship and energy, but we think that going forward, the school should harness the current advantages of entrepreneurship and energy, and the kind of quality that is perceived by the market that the Freeman School of Business has in those 2 industries. We believe that the school should harness those, and going forward, invest more in promoting them. Short and long-term strategies. One strategy that I will mention, and Dan is going to conclude our presentation with identifying the different set of strategies we believe the school should adopt going forward, is updating the website. The school's website does not stand fit with where the school's rankings are currently at. We found a lot of schools that are ranked lower than the Freeman School of Business, but have more intuitive web design. And this makes it more important for the school to invest in this particular aspect. But Dan is going to take over identifying the employer analysis, and he'll elaborate more on the short and long-term strategy.
Thanks, Ahmed. Okay, so following from the competitor analysis, we conducted an employer analysis because, although this is an academic institution, it's a professional degree. So we all come to get MBAs to get jobs, right? So what we did was we wanted to look at the hiring landscape for typical MBA graduates, and what we did to do that was we took the knowledge that we gained in our time here at the Freeman School and talking with alumni and during job searches, and we combined that with some data gathering that we did, and we got our data from the Career Management Center and from some Tulane alumni groups. And in doing that, what we wanted to do was understand, where do graduates work? What are they doing and where are they? And from these data and our discussions with different alumni, we found these things, which for the most part confirmed a lot of our assumptions. First, Tulane is heavily regional. So a lot of the graduates go on to work in Louisiana and in Houston, but also in New York City, Chicago, a little bit on the West Coast. Second, that the hiring pattern is very fragmented. No single firm hired more than two students in the last 3 years, with 1 or 2 exceptions, right? Then we also wanted to know, what exactly are they doing? Well, Freeman is known a lot for having strong finance concentrations, and they've also developed an energy program. So unsurprisingly, a lot of people are in finance functions and also working in the finance and energy industries. And finally, going back to this idea that there's no dominant firm, small and medium enterprises are very popular. So that's kind of why the hiring pattern was so fragmented, because a lot of smaller companies were hiring our graduates. So from this, we came to some conclusions about our employer analysis. First is that, think small. New Orleans has a lot of really great businesses, small and medium enterprises, and New Orleans is obviously going through this rebirth since Katrina. So we think it's very important that the Freeman School of Business really strengthen and deepen these ties to the community. Second, dominate the region. This is not as intimidating as it sounds. It's just that, the Gulf Coast is known for a lot of things. Like the maritime, we've already done energy. Energy is a great program. We should extend that to other things that we're great at in the region. So develop a maritime program. The law school has a great maritime program. Why doesn't the business school? Education, develop an education management program. Teach New Orleans and Teach for America is very big here. We should keep these bright young people here and bring them into our graduate program. And then another problem that we've noticed is that there's very little on-campus recruiting from Fortune 500 companies, and that's because Fortune 500 companies recruit from schools like Tulane for need. And the Tulane degree is a very general degree. So with the exception of energy, there's not a lot of very deep specialized knowledge. So we think, develop some programs that really give people deep specialized knowledge. And then finally, one thing that's maybe you don't know, but Tulane has a very strong reputation in Latin America. So we really drive that market in Latin America, bring in the most brilliant elite people from Latin America, and bring them into our graduate programs. So in conclusion, following from what Ahmed said before, we propose some short and long-term solutions. So in the short term, as Ahmed said, we really need to boost our marketing campaign. First, overhaul the websites. Really, really important. We also need to get more information out there in leading publications like U.S. News and World Report. We need to populate those websites with information about our programs and our students. And in the long term, down at the bottom you see there a bit about networking. So we really need to strengthen our network with our alumni and local businesses. One of the reasons that people go to business school is to develop a really strong alumni network, and we really, really need to increase that. Right now we feel it's not as strong as it could be. And then we really need to make we need to make this network available to students, put students in front of this network. Right now it's a little bit difficult to make those connections. And then finally, the real important thing is this idea of specialization and focusing on niche, right? So target specific job markets. Don't be everything to everybody, but target specific job markets. Be very, very deliberate. Leverage our strengths, we have entrepreneurship. We have very, very strong regionality. And finally, focus on specialization. If you take one thing away from this presentation, it should be that, you know, every school in the country can produce MBAs. But it's very difficult for schools to produce MBAs with a niche-driven competitive advantage. Okay. But thank you, and we'll be happy to take any questions.